It's the Todd Herman Show, and we spend a lot of time, I think, talking about D.C. in ways that only people who've lived in D.C. can talk about it. And frankly, only people who lived in D.C. for a short time. Because, man, it's super difficult to live in D.C. and not become D.C. Because the air is different, the morality is different, the expectations are different, the money's different, the economy's different. It's all different because Washington, D.C. doesn't experience recessions or depressions. They can't because they've got the best business model in the world. If you want more money, take it. Man, that's slick. There's also different moralities back in Washington, D.C. So you have your official job in Congress, that's one business card. Then you've got your think tank job, that's a second. Then you've got your campaign job, that's a third. Then you've got your consulting gig on the side, that's your side hustle. And that's your fourth business card. Now, they're all the same job, but you're just getting paid 4 times as much as you're reporting to the taxpayer. I mean, it goes on your tax returns, you'd think. And again, it's D.C. and morality is different. So having worked there for a short time and having come back from there, there's ways that you can look at D.C. in ways that I don't think other people can. President Trump has done some things that are absolutely astounding to Washington, D.C. to freeze grants. Wait. The president came in and on grants that are executive branch created, that is, through the bureaucracies, he's freezing them. You can't do that. You can't have a new boss come along and say, we're not going to spend any money until I understand how it's being spent. Chuck Schumer is, of course, a slimy politician and has been for most of his life. But Chuck Schumer was actually shocked at this. President Trump is keeping word in so many important ways. The empire is going to strike back. They've already started to do this. And the empire strikes back even in the midst of tragedy. You know about the airplane crash and the Black Hawk helicopter. This is an empire trying to strike back. It's not on a federal hiring or a grant, but it's the same body of people. This is a reporter, a Nashville journalist with NC5, lives of TikTok grab. This guy's name is Phil Williams. He posted this literally, as first responders were on the scene. In fact, it's the shot is a live shot of the attempts to rescue people from the crash, and this is what a reporter posted. President Trump offered unprecedented buyouts to all federal employees at a time when studies show the FAA does not have enough air traffic controllers to keep us safe. More people will likely die. President Trump is offering a buyout of all federal employees because we're nearing a point where the majority of people in America work for government. Now, funny thing that happens there, if the majority of people work for government, then the majority is receiving money through taxes and the minority is paying them. So the empire is striking back mentally. He deleted that tweet. President Trump, in the wake of that crash, pointed to something policy-based. And that is the FAA, because of DEI, hiring people with mental and neurological, intellectual, developmental issues. Those people should have work. They're human beings. They deserve work, but not as air traffic controllers. It's another shock and awe moment for the deep staters. And so they are, in fact, going to be using some of their very favorite methodologies, which is stupidity and laziness, incompetence. It's vicious incompetence, or sometimes people call it malicious compliance. I'll explain what this means in just a second. If you've ever seen malicious compliance, it is a vicious, vicious tool of vicious, vicious people. There are vicious people who are keeping you apart from a cure for things because they would rather have you get your body cut open. They'd rather have you have surgery even if you don't need it. I am in my late 50s and very, very active. I take my form of CrossFit, and I'm hardly anyone's champ. I take it very seriously, and I do it 8 to 10 times a week. So in order to be able to do this, I have to be aware of all the ways you can stay healthy. I know of a guy my age who's a competitive athlete, not a professional anymore, used to be an Olympic swimmer. He got to a point where he couldn't move his shoulder in a swim stroke at all. and he had a meet coming up. I think it was in Japan. He intended to medal in that meet, and he'd worked really hard to get back in competitive shape. Well, he went to renew healthcare in Mexico, and he came back, and in a week, he was swimming again. He'd been told he needed surgery. Wasn't the case. The ethically gathered stem cells that come from placentas and umbilical cords only went into my friend's arm and shoulder and rebuilt tendon and muscle and destroyed inflammation. I did have to have surgery. I didn't get to go down and avoid it, but it helped me recover so much quicker than the other shoulder surgery. Recover without stem cells, 48 weeks. With stem cells, 11. You can take advantage of this. Go to renew.healthcare. It's RENUE.healthcare, RENUE.healthcare, and just tell them you're part of the Todd Herman Show family and avoid the viciousness of people trying to siphon you off into surgery or drugs. The empire's got to fight back. They do it in ways multiple. It's not always just malicious compliance. Sometimes it's just maliciousness. John Strand, USA, points this out. Derek Bell received a pardon from President Trump on January 20, 2025. His paperwork was processed, and on paper, he was released. Moments later, while still in possession of the Bureau of Prisons, Daniel was arrested again. Daniel was taken back to his cell in the D.C. gulag, not understanding what was happening. The government has charged Daniel with having a .22 rifle and some ammo that did not fit the .22 during the January 6 raid of his home. The pardon includes all actions related to J6. The raid of his home is very obviously part of the J6 charge. The government doesn't want to let Daniel free because they tortured Daniel, and there's physical evidence of that. While in the FCC Petersburg in Virginia, Daniel was chained to his cell door. He was beaten by 2 guards. He was beaten so badly his teeth went through his face. He was chained to his cell for hours, fearful the guards would make good on their promise to come back. Now the government is trying to send Daniel back to FCC Petersburg in an obvious attempt to scare him into silence. Daniel's life is in danger. We need to have her released immediately. That's a deep state fighting back. In this case, just using the tool of maliciousness and threats. But there's another way that deep staters can go at this. This comes from the Service Academy women. For those of you who are still in uniform or are civil servants, here are some ideas on how to quietly and effectively resist from within. Pick your battles carefully, and don't take it too far and leave no trace. Rigorous adherence to protocols. Insist on following every policy, procedure, and step to the letter, even when it slows down processes. This is sometimes called malicious compliance, but remains within legal boundaries. For example, require extensive documentation reviews and approvals before implementing policies or directives. Bureaucratic delay. Use bureaucratic processes to slow down decisions or implementation of policies. For example, ask for clarification or additional information. Escalate issues for further review or approval. Invoke requirements for internal audits, legal reviews, or compliance checks. Over-communicate. Share all directives widely within your chain of command or among relevant stakeholders. Increased visibility can delay or complicate actions that might otherwise proceed unchallenged. Raise endless questions. Consistently seek detailed clarification or propose alternatives during meetings. Framing questions as ensuring the due diligence can slow down the process while appearing constructive. Prioritize other tasks. Place directives or projects you oppose lower on your priority list while focusing on higher priority or more pressing issues. This can naturally delay their implementation. Strategic interpretation. Apply directives in a way that technically complies with the orders but undermines the intended outcome. For example, carry out actions with minimal impact or effectiveness, overcomplicate tasks to create bottlenecks. These are people you are paying. These are people who work for the President of the United States, doing everything they can to not work for the President of the United States. Malicious compliance is one thing. There's also a thing that we used to call at Microsoft embrace and extinguish. If, as a senior executive, you saw someone doing something you didn't like but was popular, you took it over. Hey, this is great. I'll take it over. And then it just never saw the light of day. By the way, there's a field guide created in 1944 by the OSS, which was the Office of Strategic Services, the precursor to the CIA. It actually sounds a lot like that document these workers just provided. President Trump, you could say, was caused some of this. simply by coming out and maliciously, viciously demanding that federal workers, go to work.
Sir, the next item, as you announced in your speech, is a requirement that federal workers return to full-time in-person work immediately.
And President Trump has since come out and clarified that they gave warning to the civil servants, so-called civil servants, that you're going to have to come back to work. He is also of the belief that some of them were illegally taking separate jobs, which is in fact illegal if you're working for the government. That could bring down the Federal Employees Union, which would be a gift from God if that were to happen. Here's how the Washington Post has been reporting this. They're also part of the deep state. Trump impedes federal workforce. The boss is impeding the workforce. Oh, by the way, there's good reason for people to not work from home. One of the most consistent ways that bad actors get into your network is through work from home apps. This is Scott Bessnett, the guy who's going to be our Commerce Secretary.
As we saw from the December 8th hack by some Chinese entities into the Treasury, which is very serious, that was through a work from home software app. So one of the policies that I support, I intend to be in the building every day that I am in Washington, and I support a return to the office, which is against the current Treasury policy.
President Trump isn't just fighting policy, he's fighting people, and it's not just the people at the top, obviously. You have workers saying, here's how you can refuse to do your job, even though you work for the President of the United States and the American people. This is a Washington, D.C. bureaucrat. Man, she is not happy.
It happened. What a way to end the week. 5 o'clock on a Friday. Got our notice. Effective March 10th. We're back in the office 5 days a week. No telework. And that's the most up thing is not only did you issue this executive order, Cheeto.
She's calling her boss, the President of the United States, Cheeto.
But the executive order trumps, pun intended, and rescinds any previously agreed upon telework agreements. So before, I was able to telework once a week when I was in the office every day. Now no mores.
She goes on to say that she's deeply concerned as to what people are going to do for childcare. Welcome to the world, madam. American people, through the high taxation to pay for your salary, which is usually twice what the people who pay our taxes pay you get, also worry about childcare. President Trump is disrupting Washington, D.C. in all the best ways.